that was the thumbs up. Oh, here we go. Fantastic. Good evening, everybody. The March 23rd, 2022 meeting of the West Springfield Conservation Commission is hereby called to order at 6:10 p.m. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the West Springfield Conservation Commission. My name is John Goddard, acting chair for tonight, and I will be presiding over this meeting. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 38, I must announce that anyone intending to tape the meeting must identify themselves to the clerk and provide his or her name, address for the record. Seeing no one, I'll mention the Conservation Commission is videotaping tonight's meeting and is being shown live on cable access television and other computer applications and social media platforms. We inform those present that any document that is to be considered or discussed must be made a part of the record of the meeting, and the original or a copy must be submitted to the committee before there'll be any discussion regarding the document. Documents include photos, plans, drawings, computer printouts and simulations, video presentations, and the like, as well as letters and written materials. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to attend. Let me give each commission member an opportunity to identify themselves for the public and record. My name is John Goddard.
Danny Hanoush.
Judy LaFleche.
Melissa Henson.
And we have Mark Noonan as the Conservation Administrator this evening. These procedures will be followed during the meeting. Project representatives will make a presentation. Members of the commission, our staff, and I will ask questions of the project proponents. Then questions will be taken from the general public here in attendance. I only ask that members of the public raise their hands and wait to be recognized by, wait for me to recognize them before speaking. And please limit your questions to 2 or 3 minutes to give everyone an opportunity to speak. Also, please state your name clearly for the record along with your address. Thank you very much. Okay, 6 o'clock conservation time. 54 Carriage Lane RDA for permanent buffer adjustment and work in the buffer for foundation repair, deck replacement / enlargement, and accessory yard with landscaping structures. Let's see. Read the legal notice in. Notice is hereby given that under provisions of MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, a public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022 at 6 p.m. regarding a request for determination of applicability submitted by Rochelle Hanoush for property located at 54 Carriage Lane, requesting that the Conservation Commission revise a buffer zone approved in a previous filing, DEP file 330-0190, and whether landscape improvement work and placement of accessory structures may be permitted within the area of the revised buffer zone, and that any work may proceed under a negative determination of applicability. In addition to publication of this legal notice in the West Springfield Record, it will be posted on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association's website. The meeting will be held in Justin Morgan Auditorium on the 2nd floor of the Municipal Office Building, 26 Central Street. Kevin Cote, Chairman, March 17, 2022 is the publication date. Do we have anybody in attendance this evening to represent this application? Please, step on up, introduce yourself for the record.
Of course. Good evening, okay. Rochelle Hanoush, 54 Carriage Lane.
Thank you so much. Mark, for this particular application, do you have materials to describe? If you don't mind me asking.
Let me hand out. Let her describe and let me hand out.
Look at this. Which one do you want?
A bunch of stuff.
Okay.
A bunch of stuff. Well, this you can keep.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give everybody a copy of this, and she's.
Okay, delightful.
And she can tell you what she knows, and then I'll tell you what I know, and we'll go from there.
Please proceed.
Thank you. So we're the new owners of 54 Carriage Lane. Right now, there is a shorter buffer zone. I think that's what it's called. And we're asking for it to go back to what it used to be. The reason is we would like to put a fence because we have kids and to have more yard area for the kids to play. And some updates. The backyard is very outgrown and needs some cleaning up. The shed needs to be replaced and just clean up, but we will not be entering anything. Preserving the land.
Okay, so we'll call it the proposition, as I interpret it, is for this work to take place in the rear yard area, in the buffer zone, but not encroaching upon the wetland. Commissioners, as I look at this plan, and Mark, you can correct me if I'm mistaken, I believe it is the house lot identified as number 6.
Correct.
And I do have the aerial view. I don't know if Mark gave you a copy.
John has it. We can circulate it.
Yes.
That was-
This one right there. Okay.
Mine fills the page. You can send it around if you want, but, so in the map that if I may, the map that I passed out, this was the original plan, and the original subdivision, order conditions 3300190 required a 25-foot buffer between the wetland, which we often do. But in this case, it leaves no usable yard. And what's in that area reflects that people are using closer. So I left it kind of in the conditions blank of how much you want to. I think there should be a buffer, but I don't know what you want. So I've anywhere from, 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 5 foot, whatever. I think anything beyond 5 is probably too much. The land is pretty flat, and I think we're all of the understanding of where we're at with this whole thing. And just the torturous history of this was issued as an order. The buyer ended up putting in a pool, filled in the wetland, got an enforcement order from the state. The state issued a adjudicatory, I don't know, like a decree. Then it went into foreclosure. It went on for a lot of years. I don't know. Do you know how many? Does anybody know?
Probably like 5 years.
Oh, I think it was longer than that. I think it was more like 9. Yeah. And now here we are. So it took a lot of, a number of people that worked on it have died in the process. It's really been torturous. I've dealt with like 3 or 4 different consultants on it. So this is what you want to do your stuff right. You don't want to do anything wrong, because then you end up in a nightmare. So anyway, so we're just trying to correct that and get it back. New owners, they're looking to probably be there for a long time, and to this process will show them that they need to just understand that there are wetlands there. That's all.
Mark, have you been out there?
Numerous times, and just recently as well. I was out there just prior to their closing, and I think that there's like a little brow that's probably 3 feet from the edge of the wetland that required to be restored under the enforcement orders. That's probably a sufficient place to put everything, so about 3 feet probably would work.
So the backyard right now has kind of so it's flat grass and then it goes down. And that's where, when I requested for Mark to come and visit so that we can look at it, I wanted to make sure everything is done legally so that we fix this up, and the negative energy is beyond.
I can appreciate wanting to put that in the rearview mirror,
Yes.
for sure.
Chair, if I can contribute something. I have a conflict of interest, so I'm going to abstain on this one, just for the record.
I had already,
If I can help clarify anything, I'm happy to.
I appreciate it.
Thanks.
And I'm sorry, for the luxury of the commission members, since I rattled off, if you will, some of those scope items, and I think you listed them, but so what we're looking at here is foundation repair work, deck work, and potential enlargement, and accessory yard landscaping and structures within this area. Given the described history,
Everything right now is very outgrown, and there's mold everywhere on the outside, so we need to really clean up a lot. And then the fence. Oops, sorry.
that's okay. I'm sorry, the offense will be,
Wherever you decide.
okay, at that, if you will, determine.
The 3
Yes.
feet or whatever you want to do.
All right.
It
Any
is-
further question from commission members?
Once you put up the fence, are you gonna clear anything behind that?
No. So the reason to put the fence is for me to make sure nothing is touched after that fence, and to protect my kids from going to the wetlands at the same time.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's probably poison ivy in there anyway.
Please.
I'm not familiar with how they get rid of mold, and I'm just wondering if they're going to use any chemicals that will somehow leach over into the wetland.
Well, I guess the
Just
thing would
power
be,
wash.
yeah, and just to make sure that if you power wash, that nothing's reaching the wetland, that's all. So, if you have to put something up as a barrier, then the key is not to alter the wetland from our standpoint. It's a good point. I can put it in if you want me to add a condition. Okay, I will.
I have one more question.
Please.
Now it went.
I'll vamp for 30 seconds. On a procedural note, Mark, I see this is posted as a hearing. Is the inclination to post a hearing, then discuss the determination level? Do we need to
You
go to
can
that?
discuss before, but the idea would be to close and then issue a negative determination with the
same motion.
conditions.
All right.
I mean, with an order, I tend to have you adopt the conditions and issue the order separately, but
Understood. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Did it come back, Melissa?
Yes. Are we at a 25-foot buffer? I somehow missed that in the conversation currently.
currently we're at 25. Now, the previous owners maintained the lawn, so when we issued that certificate of compliance, we said, look, we can't change a prior decision without a decision. We can't change it in a certificate of compliance. We can only change it as a permit. And so a negative determination is a permit, just as an enforcement order or an order of conditions is a permit. So you, by this action, are adjusting what was done by the commission back in 95. They had said 25 feet, which basically puts it at the edge of the deck.
Okay, so from the deck to the tree line is about how far?
I don't know, what do you say, 50 feet maybe, you think? Maybe not even that, maybe
Then
40?
where the inclination,
Well, it's
so-
25 now,
Yeah.
because that was because I measured from the wetland forward, and I got to the, just a little bit off the foundation by the deck, so that's where I came up. So it's actually only about 25, 30 feet maybe.
Okay, and are there trees
So
on?
the way that the backyard is straight, and then it goes down, and then it's straight, and then it's the trees. But
Right.
Mark, I remember me and you, we went where it went down. So still wherever the fence is going to go, based on our conversation and your, I don't know, ideas, it's still, there's a long way until the tree line.
Until the trees, but the wetland is beyond,
Still,
it's close to
yes.
that break. To the right, there's a
Fence.
white fence. So if you're looking towards the wetland to the right, which would be to the
That's the
north.
neighbor's fence.
Yeah, and that's the neighbor's fence, and that's kind of overgrown, and there's an old playhouse in there and stuff. So my guess is they'll remove that. On the left, there's some clump of trees on the other
There's-
neighbor's house.
And there's a fence. There's a
and
wooden fence.
They have a fence, yeah. So, okay, on that side.
Oh, okay, so there's fences on each side, and you're just gonna finish off
Yes.
the back? Because my question was, is there trees? It kind of looks like your backyard goes this way.
Yes.
Okay,
So there's
Yeah, but the
fences on the
trees
right,
are
on the
mostly on
left, and the tree line is way back.
got it.
Right,
Okay,
right. The wetland is between them on Carriage and the street that's off of
Morgan?
What's that? What's the street right behind on Morgan? Oh, God, I'll have to look it up, sorry.
Don't make me pull up a map.
I'll look at my map. Hayes. Is that
Where?
Hayes? Yeah. Is it Hayes?
So basically, we need to decide on what we want for
Yeah, how much of a buffer do you
buffer we
want
want.
between the wetland and, so it's basically a little extra land that will be protected in addition to the wetland.
One question for you, Mark. This is generally, rather the proposition before us is generally consistent with the we'll call it level of development in the adjacent neighborhood. Is this an anomaly in any?
No,
way,
this is
shape, or
very
form?
similar
Okay,
to the other. I had an enforcement a few years ago, similar, very
okay,
similar. People are actually closer, I think, than what they were allowed in the original permit. So,
understood.
but because we're involved, we were making sure, rather than going out and doing enforcement on all the people. It's just getting to people to understand there's wetlands. But I haven't found anybody in the wetland that I'm aware of, except for that one that we did enforcement on. And then Hewitt, not Hayes. Hewitt is the street behind.
I'm of the mindset of 2.5. Okay, all right, then 2.
Mark didn't leave enough space on the paper to fit the 2 digits.
Well, I was splitting 5 in half, so that's, 2. 2 feet from the wetland edge.
That's your buffer,
Shall we put that in the form of a motion?
I move, well, I'm,
issue the negative determination with conditions as amended by Commissioner Henson.
Fair enough, inclusive
is
of
it,
that 2-foot dimension.
I would say -3?
Yeah,
-3 determination with the conditions as listed with a 2-foot buffer to the wetlands,
I
the
second it.
BVW.
All in favor of this roll call vote?
Aye.
Sir? Oh, we are in person. Old habits, new habits die hard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, but I think we want to close the hearing first.
Oh, shall we? Motion to close. Think we're going to do this separately, or?
I
fine.
move to close the hearing.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Second it.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Is there still a motion on the floor?
Motion, then make the motion. Who's making
I'm
the motion?
moved
Please,
to
thank you.
make a -3 determination for 54 Carriage Lane and with the conditions as listed, with a 2-foot buffer to the bordering vegetative wetlands.
And the addition of the power washing.
With the addition of when the foundation is being power washed, that appropriate measures are taken so that the waste from the power washing does not affect the wetlands.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you very much, Nate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Good night.
I'll be in touch. You don't have to be with us the rest of the night.
That's a courtesy. That's great. Okay. .605, request for termination of applicability at 33 Hanoush Drive. Notice is hereby given on the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022 at 6:05 PM regarding a request for determination of applicability as submitted by Heritage Land Surveyors and Engineering, Incorporated, on behalf of Andre Hanoush, for wetland boundary verification and work to construct lawn, grading, and landscaping associated with the construction of a new single-family home at 33 Hanoush Drive, being identified as partially assessors parcels map 37, block 1, lot 27, and map 38, block 1, lot 13. The Conservation Commission will determine whether the wetland boundaries are accurate and whether the work can be completed under a negative determination of applicability, or the applicant shall be required to file a notice of intent. In addition to publication of this legal notice in the West Springfield Record, it will be posted on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association's website. Meeting will be held in the Just Morgan Auditorium on the second floor of the Municipal Office Building, 26 Central Street. Kevin Cote, Chairman, March 17, 2022, publication date. Welcome. Sometimes they cooperate, sometimes they fight.
Thank you for having us. I am Bruce Hunsaker. I'm the president of Heritage Land Surveying and Engineering in Southampton. And as you just heard, here's our project we're looking at. The construction of the house is entirely outside the 100-foot setback from the wetlands. The only thing we're asking for is to be able to move inside of the 100-foot setback to do very minimal clearing and grubbing. There might be a little bit of construction outside the house for the foundation work that gets remediated, but all they're going to do on the outside is grass. There's no encroachment into the 50-foot setback whatsoever, which I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but both setback lines are drawn on there. The 100-foot setback here, the house is inside of it. The 50-foot setback is out here, and anything they're doing with work is outside of the 50-foot setback. Might show up a little bit better on the grading plan. You'll see the driveway comes all the way in. It's very flat all the way into the home site. The construction of the house, as I said, is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. It gets a little bit tight in here, but they're not doing any extra work along the edge of the house in here. All they're going to do is clear some trees and miscellaneous vegetation to increase the yard area well outside of the 50-foot buffer zone, but within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Is the request to establish that 50-foot as the, we'll call it, limit of work for selective work up to, if you will, that particular boundary?
Yes.
Is that, okay. Just looking at the lay of the land, as the owner indicated, if this is intended to be, is it a walkout style building at the rear?
Right.
The lower side? Okay. Just observing that works cleanly with the, we'll call it the lay of the land out there, and further limits the depth of disturbance around that footprint. The delineation for the wetland, that's recent work, is that correct? Bruce, was this recently delineated? This is building off of work that your team or collaborated with to produce for the wetland line?
Yeah, the wetlands delineation was done by GZA Engineering. It's all been located, so it's a very well-defined boundary line.
Commission members, any questions?
When was that delineated?
About a month ago.
So that is not something we've. Okay.
The letter's dated January 3rd of 2022 from GZA.
You haven't looked at it, and they're asking for your verification, so my suggestion is you look at it.
My guess is that probably at this point, we probably need to schedule a site visit.
I tend to agree as a new construction site and a new delineation that hasn't had our eyes on it just yet. We'd prefer to conduct a site visit and then continue with this discussion at the next meeting. You know, from my perspective, the work being held outside the 50, I think that's that's reasonably positive, but just to verify the wetland line. We'd like
Yeah, I
to,
mean,
look
because
for a
if the
site visit.
wetland line moves, then it's not outside the 50. And my informal study of it questions that line.
Any, I suppose at this point in time, we should look at dates. Any particular constraints on your end? I don't know if someone from your team or from GZA would like to accompany commission members on the site visit?
Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Okay.
For the record, I have to abstain from this one. I have a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Danny.
I'm away from the 1st to the 17th. Certainly, the commission's able to meet on the 13th, and we could set that up. I'd love to see the commission meet without me. But I don't know that you will, so just to be aware of that, I'm not around for the next meeting. When you would probably verify, when you issue this, so it probably would be the second meeting in April. I'm hoping that's okay with the schedule.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, all right. I feel bad because I hate slowing things down if I don't have, for.
Well, I'm sure part of that'll be informed by what we see on site, and if there's any,
Yeah.
specific concern that somehow is raised in the process. Preference for mornings or afternoons?
I think maybe Judy and I are a little more flexible.
I thi-
I've only
yeah.
can speak for me, but,
No, I'm flex-
John, what is your availability?
This coming Friday and Monday, I am obligated elsewhere.
Same here.
I would,
The 30th, the 31st, or no, first week in April?
yeah, let's do.
Okay, first week in April.
Well, yeah, I'd like to be with you, but if you want me to get on the site before you,
Next, I mean,
When are you coming back?
when did you?
well, no, I'd like to do is do it before I go.
Yes.
Oh,
So they have some assurance that we're, where we at.
when are you going?
I'm leaving I won't be here the 1st, but
Okay.
I'm here next week.
Okay,
I've
so
got
next
obligations this Friday, so I'm not gonna be around, but,
So John, you said what days?
I'm sorry, so if we're looking at the week of the 28th,
Yeah.
Monday, the 20th is the only
Right.
day I'm unavailable.
Okay, so you could do Tuesday,
I can do Tuesday.
Wednesday, or Thursday.
Okay.
What does Wednesday look like for you, Judy?
Wednesday's good,
Could we do at like an 8:30?
it's fine.
8:30?
8:30?
Wednesday, what day is Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't have to, and if you don't mind, if I got out there ahead of you, I could, and then I assume you're gonna have, Dan out there, Nietzsche? So I could quiz him if we needed to, if he wanted to meet me beforehand. So let me see, what's Wednesday, the
the 30th?
30th?
Well, I'm not sure if it'll be Dan or Adrian, but there will be
Yeah, one of
someone
them,
from
so
GZA.
we can kind of, I can go through it and look at it and, question what I gotta question.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll set this site visit, March 30th. It was 8:30 a.m., is that correct?
Right.
On site?
Yeah, I'll try to get out there at 8 or
So
something.
good luck getting out there before that.
Yeah, I'll try.
I don't know what you set yourself up for, but
Well, it's better that way, because I do have an 11, so, yeah, I'd like to get out there ahead of time.
okay. Anything,
Are you wanting us to do it later, like a 9?
No, John probably can't do it.
unless this is killing you, Mark, 8:30 would be preferred.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll try to get out even earlier. I don't mind, as long as I know I gotta get out there.
Then it's
So
done.
Wednesday, the 30th at 8:30. Okay.
That sounds like a plan. Anything further you want to ask or add at this time?
No?
Okay, I suppose we'll look for a motion to continue to
Just
the,
let the property owners know I may be poking around earlier.
That's not a problem.
Okay.
I move to continue 33 Hunus Drive until April 27th.
did we want to go all the way to the 27th? Was that the
Well, I'm
indication
not
from
here
that?
on the 13th. You certainly can do it on the 13th.
Well, that's the motion on the floor then.
Okay. I second it.
All in favor?
I,
Aye. All right, then we'll have the site visit, and we'll pick up this discussion on April 27th.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
What was that, two? We're booming.
Is a reason to show up, is heads company, right? Okay, let's see, where
All
are
right,
we
they'll
next?
speed up now, right?
That's right. 610, notice of intent, 1080 Riverdale Street. Notice is hereby given that under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, a public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022 at 6:10 PM regarding a notice of intent submitted by Ecological Resource Consultants, LLC, on behalf of DLP Hospitality, LLC, to redevelop an existing hotel complex located at 1080 Riverdale Street. The project includes renovation around one hotel building, construction of a drainage basin, Portions of the work to occur within the 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetlands. In addition to publication of this legal notice in the West Springfield Record, it will be posted on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association's website. Wow. Meeting will be held in the Justin Morgan Auditorium on the second floor of the Municipal Office Building, 26 Central Street. Kevin Cote, Chairman, March 17th, 2022, publication date. Welcome.
Good evening. Well, let's get set up. My name is John Furman. I'm the Director of Land Development for VHB in Springfield. David Picard from Ecological Resource Consultants had a conflict tonight, so he couldn't attend, so you're stuck with me. So we are here to present the notice of intent for some work that is going to be proposed for 1080 Riverdale Street, and there it is. It's making its way
On
around.
everybody's monitor,
The light.
except for the big one. It's behind you on your monitors. Oh, and it's.
We've got it.
There we go. All right, we got it. I'm not sure that this project has been before the commission previously, this particular project. This property has. VHB was here back in 2019 and requested a resource area delineation for the wetland in the back of the property and in the wetland in the front. Our environmental people delineated this, and through working with Mark and comparing a previous delineation, we were more aggressive on one side and less aggressive on the other, so we ended up compiling the two delineations to give a more conservative wetland line. So that was still valid, and that's what we're working on here. What you see in front of you here on this plan is a proposed master plan redevelopment for this property. We've got this surveyed, and we were ready to submit this to planning to work through as a planned unit development, but COVID hit, and so then everything kind of got shut down. So the intent of this was to basically, if you're familiar with this building, there's a water park and a hotel there, and then in back there's another hotel, and under the West Springfield zoning, the buildings have to be connected and considered as one. You can't have two buildings on principal use. So there are two corridors that connect it, which, it doesn't show on this, I'll show you on the next one. The project went dormant for a couple years, and now it's back. So what we're looking to do is to basically do phase one, which is to remodel the existing hotel that's right here. So everything else on the site will remain the same. So let me zoom up and I can share some details with you. All right. So in between this existing building and this existing building, there are two corridors. And the corridors are about 6 feet long. In between those two corridors is grass. It's a courtyard type of overgrown landscaping. So what we're proposing to do is to pull that out. And there is a little parking area currently here. We're proposing to pull all that out, include some plantings here to create a drop-off area and protect a transformer that's in this area, construct a sidewalk along the back of this building to protect this building, and then make an area where we can drive through, customers can drop off and then and pick up. This work creates about 1,500 square feet of additional impervious area. And the rest of the site is basically remaining the same. So what we're proposing, which is why we're in front of you, is to construct this detention basin back here along the wetland line. I'm going to flip back to the previous plan that I showed you. And what you can see on this plan is that this basin right here is the same basin that we're looking at right here. The difference is that this is the edge of the parking, which I'm tracing right now. And under the full build-out plan, this will all be parking. This will all be impervious area. What we're proposing to do is basically leave that line alone and then basically run a pipe to this basin and have it overflowed. When you look at the stormwater management, let me zoom up on that. So we analyzed the site and then the additional 2,000 square feet. You can see for all the storms we analyzed, the outfall went way low on the peak because the basin's sized for the full development going to it, and we're only adding in rainfall from another 1,500 square feet. So what we're asking for is permission to work within this buffer to construct this basin. The buffer line, it's not on that plan. Let me see if I can find it on this one here. Right there. So this line right here is the 100-foot buffer line off of the delineation that's in the back. And then that's the outline of the inside of the basin. Eventually, when we come back for the full project, we'll be asking for more work. If I go back to this plan here and zoom out a little bit, you can see, in addition to the parking area being widened all along through here, that detention basin gets expanded all the way to the west, and it gets quite large here at the bottom. But at this point, we're only looking at this point. We're hoping that this will be a catalyst. Once we get this started and get that hotel renovated, there'll start to be some interest in the site, and then we can look at some of the other uses that were proposed here. We have been through planning to get this approved, and it required a special permit because of the rezoning that we did. It's now a planned use development with a business A zone underneath it, and we were approved with that special permit. So you're our last stop.
If, John, if you don't mind, between these two plans here, I'm just picking up, I think that, and you had one that showed just this phased, if you will, portion of the improvement. When it comes to the stormwater, are there any elements? I see in the final plan, this is essentially receiving water overland from that parking expansion area. Are there any elements from a stormwater quality standpoint that are being, or that aren't being installed under this initial phase right here, or anything that needs to be deconstructed as it moves towards full build out?
No. So the plan is that we're basically doing this as phase one, and then we're going to build on it. These areas here, and you're exactly right, there are areas within the site. The catch basins are far and few between on this property.
Yeah.
It just sheet flows along a curb, through a break in the curb and goes into the woods, and we're not proposing to address any of that right now. This area here, which is about half of this existing area, there's no catch basins there, and that's a high point. So that water flows out and runs down through here, and it enters the wetland area. You can see how close it is right here. So what we've done on our grading plan is we have created high points, three high points. Oops. One here, one at the door, and one at this end. So by waffling the paving, we've created low points here and here, and we've added catch basins to collect those, which you can see here. So all the water that was formerly going in this area here out is now being collected, going through catch basins with hooded sumps and hooded outlets and deep sumps, and then going into this basin here. The same thing on this side. There was a smaller parking area on this side, but again, no catch basins, and it's just sheet flowing out. And then in this area here, there's very few catch basins on this side. It just kind of meanders wherever it goes. So as we do this, we're hoping to channelize things, add additional collection points, and then actually introduce more stormwater quality than we have here.
I see. Okay, thank you. Just was picking up on, called some of the incremental nature of this project as it relates to stormwater. Okay.
The next phase will be bigger, because if you look at what the plan is here, that building is right here. It's hard to see, but this is the outline of that building.
Mm-hmm.
So the thought was that they would remodel, there's a natural firewall here, they would remodel this piece of it, take this building down and add another hotel here to create a courtyard of parking around it. Then all of that water, which now kind of free-for-alls, is contained. It would all be collected, and then you can see that we're redirecting water as we go through here. It's still going into this area, but we have infiltration areas along that system.
Okay, now, so that description makes sense to me. Now I see that the full build-out, there's frankly a redirection of stormwater from the area we're capturing under this initial phase right here. That basin remains to perform its function for the expanded parking area.
Yes.
Okay,
That
thank
is
you
correct.
very much. Questions from commission members?
Looks good to me.
Are you adding more parking? I just am, as you were going back and forth, I was trying to look at the catch basins, or not the catch basins, woo-hoo. Yeah, the stormwater basin. No, the full build-out one that has all of it.
Oh, the full build-out one?
Oh, well,
A
that's,
lot more parking. I'll put it to you that way. Under this project, I think we're adding 4. Because right now, in this area here, I believe there's 7 spaces now. And I think if you total these up, it comes to 11, 17. So I think there's 4 less than what we had under previous. I'm sorry, that's not correct. We're not adding 105 spaces. The only work that we're doing is right here.
right.
Yeah, so I think we're adding 5 or 7 spaces to the
Okay,
project.
so, but to go to the full build-out,
Yes,
you're adding another, so then you're gonna come back to work back
yes.
to put in another basin.
Yeah, well, the plan is to redevelop this hotel, modernize it, and then get this set. Then, when the next project comes in, from a parking perspective, we'll add a fire lane. There's parking over here right now, and that's gonna be occupied by the building you see peeking out here. So we're providing a fire lane just around the back. There's a wetland back here, and we're pulling parking. Right now, it just sheet flows to that. So the fire lane will actually act as a break, so no more water will go to that. It'll just catch the water coming off of 91. In this area here, this is the limit of the parking area that we'll be adding through here. I only brought the grading plan because I wanted to show you the grading, so I don't know the exact number of that. But then in the center here, you can see this is all building right now. And it will be all parking when we're done. So we don't, under the zoning code, we don't have an excess of parking for the full build. We do have, or an extreme excess of parking, let me say. I know we have more than is required, but it's not for an exorbitant amount. It's just, for a hotel room, for instance, you're required 1.5 parking spaces per room. So if you have 100 rooms, you need 150 spaces. So that's what's required under zoning. So I can say there will definitely be more parking under the full build. But I'm
Okay.
uncertain, as is the developer, when that will occur.
And then the front, which is towards Riverdale, is that gonna remain all, the green space that's there, is that gonna remain?
So under the full build, we're actually, the existing site doesn't comply with the current zoning for PUD. So I believe, saying from memory, against adjacent parcels, you need an 8-foot landscape buffer, and we maybe have 4. So under the full build, what they'll be doing is actually cutting parking, removing it, and putting in that full landscape buffer. So the area here, again, this is the road that goes out to Riverdale Street. So that has landscape on the side. That'll all stay. We'll redo the road, repave it, but the drainage and everything that's there will remain. When we get into the area over here, we're trying to keep this piece the way that it is. We may pull it up and resurface it because the pavement's pretty bad, but we're not planning any large revisions to parking as we're doing here in the middle and in the back.
I'm just thinking that's a lot of impervious surface.
It's a lot of parking, for sure. But this is actually a trade-off because there's a building here right now. So when you look at it and you compare it to parking, you're like, yeah, that's a lot of paving, but there's a huge building there right now, which is also impervious. So under the full build, the only new impervious we have is this little piece right here. Everything else is within the limits of the paving.
Is he planning to upgrade, again, back to the front, where the ponds are?
Here? Yep. Yeah, so we're not going into the ponds.
No, I understand, but is he gonna, is that gonna be,
There'll be drainage
Cleaned
put
up?
in there. Oh, cleaned up? Yes, definitely. There's another parking lot on the other side of the ponds that right now looks like Mass DOT has some, or a contractor has stuff stored in there. There's barrels, there's flashing arrow boards. But what we're planning on doing here is under the full build, we'll actually be putting in collection systems. So right now, stormwater just flows across the parking lot. The curb is broken and there's a paved swale that just rolls into the water. We're gonna seal those up so no water goes directly in. We'll be adding catch basin and piping.
okay, because he had a bridge there and a,
No bridge. There is a paved roadway that I believe is right here.
Yeah, I think the other bridge you're talking about collapsed.
Oh.
I think the paved roadway is right here.
oh, it collapsed, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought it did, didn't it?
I don't.
He used to do it, it was for wedding pictures, and they'd go
Yeah.
out and take a picture over the water.
The last time I was out there, I didn't see one. So if there's one there, it's
Yeah, I think it rotted away.
yeah.
Yeah, if you may recall.
Mark, do we have any comments from Public Works Engineering on the stormwater?
They
Report?
didn't, they did for planning, I assume they reviewed it.
Yes, yep.
We can get those. They didn't, I don't think I have
I
them.
didn't think to bring them, but they were read at the planning meeting, and there was no. The comments were basically of the nature that for this smaller phase 1, no comments, but we'll review it with the larger project.
So my question is more on procedural. So we can issue an order on this for the smaller project and cite a sheet that pertains to it. And then I'd assume you'd come back with like formal amendments as you go. And then we can stay with the same order instead of getting it confused with multiple orders.
That would make sense. And we did get DEP comments on it, and the 3 comments were, was that the NOI form was not signed by the owner. That was our mistake. We signed it and didn't get the authorization letter, so I gave a signed copy to Mark tonight. The second comment was that there's already an existing order outstanding on this. Mark researched that, and that was closed some time ago. And the third comment was that the DEP stormwater checklist wasn't signed by me. I stamped the cover, but not the checklist, so I gave that to Mark as well. So we've taken care of all the comments.
So that's, that's my big thing, is that we don't want to get into the situation where we approve it, or they approve it, and then they're stuck with, something he does later. So somehow we have to limit it to what this is, like a sheet, and then subsequent stuff would come back to us.
I would say that
Excuse me.
this is the full set. If you reference the full set, you will get all of the work. But
Right, but they're not reviewing for the whole work, right?
So C5 of the sets that we submitted, which is up on the screen, shows the work, all of the work that we're doing for this phase 1 through here. So
Right.
if you reference this sheet, none of the other work. I showed you that overall development plan to give you some context. So
Yeah,
why
because
we-
the new
why we picked that spot.
181 hotel, room hotel that's going to be in our jurisdiction, and then any of the drainage in the front is, but the middle part possibly is not in
Well,
any.
it would have a connection to that wetland, so it would be jurisdictional through that connection.
I mean, the front is a riverfront, so
Yep.
I don't know how far back the 200 feet is.
I think, seeing how many, and having multiple orders on a property complicates things. I think the suggestion to issue the order for this,
Yeah,
and then basically include a condition that any future work on this comes back to amend this order,
yeah, it was a formal.
makes sense, because I think it just
I think it's
eliminates.
just cleaner, it keeps everything, on the same project. Before we were we've had multiple condition orders on this, and it's just been
Right.
hard to keep track of. So it'd be better to just issue one order and then say, look, it's gonna be phased, you're gonna come back to us, and that's how we'll handle it, if it's okay with the commission. I did include the old order, to give you some idea of what conditions could be on this order, so it depends on how you wanna deal with it. Is it something you need to see again? Is it something you want to close the hearing, issue it with that suggestion of citing only the section and then issuing the order with those conditions? I'll tweak them a little more and send them to you before I send them out. But, did I give them?
I have 2 copies right here, and then a third loose.
Yeah, send it around if anybody wants.
Fair enough.
That's what was the last order, which we closed in 17. They never did anything with it, but it's pretty standard. And it's kind of what I would suggest here. It's just the plan citation's gonna change. And maybe a condition saying that any future phases have to come back for a formal amendment.
Yep.
That's the only thing I would consider adding.
John, I didn't see it flip by. Just wanted to clarify, any proposed vegetation out there is limited to stabilization around this disturbance area?
That's correct, yep.
Okay.
And I'm looking at if you wanted to include, I'll make this as an offer as a condition to add, just, they always say hindsight is 20/20. When you look at the grading that we have here, we are grading quite a bit, just to all we're doing is putting this pipe in, so we could actually, close down this cutting in this area just enough to put the pipe in. So if you wanted to add a condition that, to minimize the clearing and grubbing for the installation, we'd be fine with that.
I think the big thing for him is that used to be a place where you dump all his junk in the back. So I don't know how it
I suppose
affects
you can't
that.
do that in the
And I don't know
stormwater
if he
basin,
did
is
snow
what you're saying.
storage back there, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you would definitely lose it under the full build when we put a parking lot back there,
Right.
so.
But that doesn't matter.
But that does explain the solid fence
Yeah.
next to the woods.
Yeah, he used to like park all his crap in there.
Mark, any particular concerns over the wetland line as shown?
No, we did an ORAD on this, so I think we were comfortable with the line.
Yes.
And so we're comfortable with where the lines are. It's really just citing this as a phase. I asked it be an NOI because it's stormwater and it's closer than 50 feet. So, an RDA would get confused and lost. I think it's better to have a formal order with formal amendments, and then we can track it all together. It's just easier.
I believe we included the ORAD in the back of the NOI for reference for you too.
Delightful. Thank you.
So it's
you
up
tell
to
me it's in
you
front of me right
guys
here.
what you want to do. I mean, I'm comfortable with if you
At least
needed
crack
to
the
close
cover
it.
once. Everyone goes electronic now. No one actually looks at the hard copies anymore.
I'll ask the obvious question, how fast is it gonna be before he does it?
That I can't answer. Yep. I know that they were pretty excited when they had a hotel flagship interested in the building. So they asked me to put this together fairly quickly.
It's just our history has been, obviously, they didn't even use one of our orders.
Right.
Well, staff, unless I'm mistaken, I think we've received the information now. We need to, any further questions from board members or comments? I think we can entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Do you, pardon me, as per staff's recommendation, close the public hearing and
And then separately vote on issuing an order, and then, you can either vote separately on the conditions, or you can, whatever.
I move to close 1080 Riverdale Street, notice of intent.
I second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I move to issue
385.
3300385. Oh, okay, that's the 3300385. I don't know what's wrong with my brain tonight. 1080 Riverdale Street, Clarion Hotel, special order of conditions. Order of conditions with and order of conditions as discussed.
Second.
Any further discussion amongst commission members? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Delightful. Here we go. I think I just threw it in my agenda. Nah, we're almost set. Okay. 6:15, request for determination of applicability at 33 Wishing Well Lane. Bear with me one moment here. Okay, notice is hereby given under provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40. A public hearing will be held on Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022, at 6:15 PM regarding a request for determination of applicability submitted by Amy LaRochelle to determine if work to construct a 14 by 30 foot garage, associated landscaping, and cleanup of dead trees located within the buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetland requires additional permitting from Conservation Commission, or the work may be completed under a negative determination of applicability. In addition to publication of this legal notice in the West Springfield Record, it will be posted on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association's website. Meeting will be held in the Justin Morgan Auditorium on the second floor of the Municipal Office Building, 26 Central Street. Kevin Cote, Chairman. Publication date of March 17, 2022. Welcome.
Good evening. How are you?
Great. How are you this evening?
Good. I'm Christopher Bloom. I'm from Jacora Realty Investments, and I've been hired by the homeowners behind me at 33 Wishing Well to build them a detached 14 by 30-foot garage. They need that because the gentleman behind me brings home at night, a commercial vehicle, and that's supposed to be inside a garage. So what I have before you folks this evening is full documentation on the wetland study from GZA dated 12 March 2022. And I have for you the survey done by Harold Eaton Associates showing you the plot plan, where the house is, where the current pool is, where the wetlands are, and where the proposed 40 by 30 garage is. And the closest spot to the proposed garage is 51 feet 3 inches to wetland flag number 4. That's it, easy.
I've got stuff. Let me pass this to Seth. That particular 51-foot 3-inch dimension, that's a physical distance, not on a plan before us. Is that correct?
That's a physical distance. If you don't have.
Gotcha.
a plan-
I'm sorry, that one, I may have just sent it down the line there inadvertently. I apologize if I missed it in the shuffling of papers. Associated landscaping, any particular plantings? Is this a matter of stabilization around the garage after it's constructed?
Nope, I'm gonna do minimum damage, minimum excavation, I'm gonna put a silt fence up as well too, and then I'll leave it and that'll stay up for quite some time after I'm done,
Okay,
until you folks come back out and say to the homeowners that they can take it down.
okay. I may have all rolled around the line.
So just while you're waiting or looking at it, I've been to the property a couple times, and it's pretty flat out to the wetlands. The wetlands are kind of at the start of the tree line where it's shown on the map. The only question I had for the La Rochelle's is that there was some discussion about some down trees. Is that part of this, or are you not doing that? Have you given up? Where are we with that?
Sing to the man.
Hello, I'm Jeff LaRochelle, yes, and at 33 Wishing Well Way, it's not Lane.
Sorry.
It's not part, we're not understanding, we kind of seem to have some disgruntled neighbors that seem to be, the wetlands has been delineated, it's not even in the wetlands, it's not, it's within,
Well, the down trees were within the wetlands.
they're not in the wetlands, it's been
Well, I
delineated.
should-
Now
I
the
should
line
take
has
a
been
look at
pushed,
it,
it's
but-
been, obviously, was it GZA or whatever, has determined.
So then we should, well, yeah, but then.
So now, I don't know what if you got a buffer zone, it's probably, I don't know, you probably got about 10 feet from the buffer zone where these trees were lying.
So I would say.
We're trying to
that-
clean it up,
yeah.
they're dead.
So my only point is the commission then, if you're trying to confirm a line that's different, then the commission should look at it, which will delay it. But that's to
Well-
confirm that line.
But that's separate from.
It's separate issue, our garage he's done an awesome job, we need to keep moving forward on that. Somehow this got added into the letter about these dead trees that I can't clean up.
Well, I
That's
put
all
it
I'm
in, so,
asking, is just to
because
clean
you
it up.
guys had raised it to me, so if you want it, if you don't want to address that, that's fine. But I will come out and see where the new wetland line is. But you did ask the commission in your application to confirm the line. If you withdraw confirming the line, then we can go ahead, I think.
We're just making sure.
Because
that
we're not accepting that line until we agree to it.
So, I don't know, I'll just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I want to move this forward, because I really don't want to hold up the garage, but I do want to resolve the wetland line, so, at some point in the future. So we can deal with that as a separate application.
Yes, as you heard earlier this evening, when we look at new construction, new delineation, it's appropriate for commission members to get their feet on the ground and eyes on the matter, to make sure, at least according to our interpretation, the delineation holds up.
So the RDA is just requesting whether the work and that's all, and then,
That's-
then we can go.
We're here tonight.
Then we're
Then we
good.
do it.
That's why we're here
Yes,
tonight.
yes.
That's fine. I think Mark is just trying to extend a courtesy to either globally grab everything and identify at the same time that, hey, there's a speedier part you're more sensitive to, so if we can divorce those two matters.
Yeah,
then,
let's divorce them
that's
so
the
that we can
cleanest way
move
to
your
approach.
project ahead,
Thanks.
and then we can resolve that other one in in hopefully a timely manner as well, so.
Questions or comments from commission members?
I have none.
I have none.
No, I'm good.
All right, so it'd be a -3 with conditions for the work and not any decision on the delineation.
Great,
Right?
thanks, guys.
Great.
Have a good night.
And you're okay with the
Yeah, we-
conditions? You saw the conditions, you're
And you've-
okay? Good.
Do we gotta
Great.
close it first?
Why don't we close the public?
Move
Yeah, that
to
would be good.
close-
Thank you very much. What you want to send you on your
Move
way?
to close the RDA for 33 Wishing Well Way.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I move to, oh my God, make a -3 negative determination for 33 Wishing Well Way, without, an
Confirmation.
agreement on the wetland line.
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
All right, so I'll write it up, get it to you, it's technically a 10-day appeal period. I want to do that before I leave, so you can just keep going. And then if you want to do the confirmation of the line, we can do that separately, in the same thing in RDA.
Gotcha.
So I just probably need a revised application, that's all.
That's fine.
All
Thanks,
right?
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, where are we? 330-0379, Order of Conditions Amendment at 605 and 635 Riverdale Street, Belize, Kia.
No, yeah, it doesn't matter. Go ahead. John likes to sit around. So I thought I switched him, but I guess I didn't. Yeah, if John's here still, so he'll have to sit here.
Let's see if I can be fancy like John then. That's probably be around for my whole high school year. Being fancy like John.
You had the IT guy open.
Call him out, jeez.
Oh,
Oh, technology, how about that?
Hello. My name is John Allard. I'm a landscape architect and project manager with Austin O'Neill. I initially sent a letter to Mark in regards to some work going on at 635 Riverdale Street. It's the new Kia building that's being constructed currently. within the basin that the water has somewhere to go and not back out on site. This is the location that it would be going in. I thought it would be nice to show this because we're standing right at the silt fence, which is back here. So we're standing about right here, looking towards the Connecticut River. And this is actually a pretty good spot to create this swale. There's no large trees there. There's actually a bunch of Japanese knotweed in the back too that we would like to clean up in the area as well. And that's about it.
Well, nonetheless. John, would you mind describing the stabilization product
Yeah.
that's called out in the detail?
Yep, it's right over here. It's really just a reinforcement matting, mesh matting, that will help hold the grade and allow the seed to kind of establish. Once the seed is established, and it might not, obviously in here, we would plant some shade tolerant mix, and in general, over time, it's going to just, nature's going to take over, and most likely that seed will no longer be there, but we would have some new growth there rooting in, holding that swale together. So pretty much as a biodegradable over time.
I see. So the reinforcement really is intended to address the grades that are constructed, not, I'm going to call it the flood of biblical proportions.
Yeah.
Assuming that water goes that direction
Right.
before it rises out of the Connecticut.
We're hoping that emergency spillway is never used. It shouldn't ever be used because all the water should, when it fills up into this basin, should be collected into this high water overflow and into the drainage system. This really is just a backup plan for that in case this ever gets clogged or fails in some sort of way.
As depicted in the sketch, it looks like there wasn't any intention for tree removal. Do you think any will need to be taken out from the disturbance?
No, as you can see from this photo, this is in the general location. No large trees whatsoever will be removed. As I said before, we think that there is Japanese knotweed, invasive material in the back. We'd like to kind of clean that up as well as part of this. But yeah.
Okay. Commissioner, questions or comments?
I have, I guess, a question.
Sure.
Did I hear you correctly in saying that the reinforcement matting or mesh does biodegrade, so at some point it's
Yeah,
gone?
it'll go away, and over the years it'll take on the look of
So
what's existing there.
how then how will the swale be maintained so that it doesn't become overgrown and rendered ineffective?
It should generally remain as is. If it's just a swale and stuff starts to grow in it, we can get out there. I don't know if that would be a condition that this swale be cleared out of large shrubs, but I'm sure we can do that.
Any other questions or comments from the commission members? Nope. Town staff, anything to add from your perspective?
So John had reached out, sorry, I was off. John had reached out to me and he said, well, how do we handle this? And I said, well, write us a letter and copy DEP and Natural Heritage, which he did. And then you guys can decide whether it's a formal amendment needed or you just take it as a minor and pick it up in the as-built plan at the end. So that's really the decision that's up to you. If you want to add a condition, that's fine. My only comment is that down below, you do get some erosion where that other outlet is, and so just to make sure that some way not to get that, somehow monitor that so we don't see that, you know. The project's gonna be going on for a while, so I imagine. So that's really the decision before the commission is this minor enough that you can be just picked up in the as-built, or do you want something more formal and advertised and all that stuff?
I'm of the opinion that this is a minor modification to the project, despite its proximity. It's for, the establishment of a safety relief valve for the stormwater system, and frankly, to function, sit there as pervious surface after construction. But I'll entertain any other discussion or motion from board members, commission members.
My only request would be is to have a condition at some point added in the as-built, that it be maintained. But
We could put that in the certificate of compliance, but I'm sorry. We could put that in the certificate of compliance, but I will put it in the little letter back to John saying that the commission, if you decide that it's a minor amendment, that these are the parameters.
Understood.
I think it'd be appropriate to have that reflected, at least in an amendment to the stormwater management report, or I should say the operations and maintenance plan, so that years down the road, if someone's looking at this overall site and looking for compliance, they have a reference to it.
Great. Yep.
Want a motion, that is reflected in a motion, Mark?
Yeah, just, I'll write them a letter. I assume you're asking me that it is a minor amendment.
I
And
move to make a motion for a minor amendment to 3300379, 605, 635 Riverdale Street, Belize, Kia.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks, John.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. On to the next, John, right? Back to the,
Back to the next, John.
yeah, that's right. Here we go. We're saturating the room tonight, all right? 330-0377, 764 Riverdale and 1533 Elm. Decide, owner, hotel site revisions, request to amend plans. Welcome back. Success.
Okay. Good evening. For the record, I'm still John Furman, the Director of Land Development for VHB. And we are here tonight to ask the Commission to consider some changes we are making to 753, 1533 Riverdale Road, Elm Street. We were in front of the Commission probably close to a year ago. And that's the existing hotel, and there was the former, it was a restaurant, and then there was a former VFW building, the two parcels together. And the plan at that time was to demolish both of those buildings and to construct a flagship hotel of 102 rooms, I believe it is. We got all our approvals. We were ready to go. So Mr. Desai started talking to contractors, and what you see on this plan is the issue of why we are here. Let me zoom up on this. So this red line that you see on this plan is an existing retaining wall that's along the back of the property. And it is literally 5 feet from the back of the existing building. You can barely walk through there. And the plan was to take that down, to cut the embankment behind it, and to install the new retaining wall, which is the blue one through here. And the layout that you see here in the parking area was what we were planning. provided us with 123 parking spaces. As we were talking to the contractors, and the contractors were looking at the soil logs and the classification of the soil that's there, the fear was that the high groundwater behind that wall and the type of soil, it would become very fluid when we had the old wall down, which would result in a landslide and take the road from Dingle Drive with it into the site. So we looked at what it would take in order to keep the existing retaining wall in place. That wall needs a little work. Right now, that wall is described as an H-pile wall. So there's steel beams that are shaped like an H. And they're driven, according to Mr. Desai, about 30 feet into the ground. And they stick up about 30 feet, so they're 60 foot. And then there are boards placed in, thick boards between the H's. And that's what the retaining wall is. The lower ones are a little punky. They're getting rotten. And in addition, we need to lower the grade in front of that wall about 3.5 feet. So the architect is coming up with a plan on how to basically replace the lower part of the retaining wall without disturbing the top. Because if he disturbs the top, we're basically back at the same situation. So in order to implement this plan, we had to do two things. The first thing is that we returned to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we asked for a variance to develop within the landscape buffer in the front. There's a 12-foot landscape buffer in the front, and we got a variance to reduce it from 12 feet to 6 feet, and that gave us 2 additional spaces here. The second thing that we did is that we returned to the planning board, and we asked for a special permit to further reduce the amount of parking that we needed. So under this plan here, we were required 128 spaces, and the planning board provided us with a special permit to reduce it to 123. If you look at what our plan is that presented in front of you here, we asked for an additional 4 spaces. So we're required 128, and we're allowed to reduce that to 119. And the logic of that is that we are providing more parking than the room count. So there is an extra amount there for employees and staff to park. So the planning board felt good and issued us a special permit. So this is the last step in that process for keeping that existing retaining wall. So you can see everything in the front of the site basically remains the same as you have approved it. One of the items that we did reduce is, if you looked at the original plan, we had 1, 2, 3 planters along this wall here, or along this abutting property here. Planning board suggested we take those out because it gave us 3 extra spaces, and then it helped us to reduce the special permit amount. So that's what we've done there. If you recall the permitting that we went through on this, it was an extensive issue with floodplain. And we ended up going to the abutter, and we were able to get an agreement to basically compensate for the floodplain that's needed on this site over here. And Mark was instrumental in helping us work through that. And the thought was that if we have the floodplain included in one area versus having it scattered in pockets around the site, it's easier to maintain. It's easier to go through, cut the vegetation, and to maintain it, not dumping any snow on it. And we have an agreement, we being the property owner, an agreement executed with the order of conditions, and it's signed by the country club and the owner here, that all the maintenance required for this feature that's on the adjacent property falls to Desai. So that's all set. And we are not touching that. That's still the same. The order required that in addition to the guardrail along that property line, we install a fence on top of the guardrail, another extra 5 feet, so that snow couldn't be picked up and pushed over. That's on the plan, and there's no objection to any of that at all. So really what we're asking for is permission to alter the area within the buffer zone. And we're really in this area here. All of this is the 200-foot riverfront. And then this is the 100-foot buffer zone from the wetlands. So we're basically looking at this area here. But the change is more encompassing than just that little corner. You can see, you know, the parking becomes angular, I guess, instead of being in a nice continuous row like it was. It's now fragmented. We had a storage shed back here. We removed that because we couldn't fit it in. And in reviewing the stormwater calculations, we are reducing the amount of impervious area on the site pretty substantially, because this was, you can see where the wall was, this was all paving. So now you can see that the paving line's been pushed back. So we're reducing. So we haven't updated the stormwater management report because we've already got it designed for the extra amount. Why go back and reduce it? So we just left it alone. So there's some conservativeness built into it. So I know it seems like a lot of change. I've kind of gone through the whole history of it, and I hope I haven't confused everybody by it, but we're asking the commission to consider it a minor amendment, even though it has a big impact on the site. And and the reason for asking for amendment is it took an act of Congress to get the order pulled together and the agreement signed and everything else, and it's all set. So I'd ask you for your consideration in that.
John, the red line indicates the existing wall that's now going to remain and be
Yes.
shored up or buttressed by a shorter wall at its toe. Is that correct?
We think what's going to happen is that the wall that's there is going to stay there. And we're going to excavate in front of it, and then we're going to most likely build a shorter wall, a retaining wall, with a little earth behind it, and then fill in behind it. So you'll have a kind of a double wall. Okay. To me, that is the easiest way to address this situation.
I'm not intimately familiar with the limit of floodplain at this site. Is that that low wall going to impact the calculations to any degree for compensatory storage?
It is not. I have a plan here.
Thank
so
you.
yeah,
Okay.
this is the existing floodplain. It's all in front.
Okay.
And this is the updated one. So we ran the floodplain out along the front of that wall. And you can see that area I was referring to that's on the adjacent property right here. You can see that is unaffected. You can see it doesn't exist now.
Any long-term, I suppose the question is, what is long, right? With the portion of the wall to remain?
No, it seems that just the lower portion is having the issue because the groundwater is so high. It's always saturated. So even if those timbers were to give way, the most that you would get is them turning back into some kind of organic substance. It would be less dense. You'd get some settling through there. But this wall is 32 feet tall. You know, if you take the size of an actual 4x8 and you reduce it to dust, and the balance, it will never work its way up. It's just too much, it's too great. Okay. So I think the long term is that the wall, the little, 8-inch wide wall at the bottom is what's going to be key to holding everything back in together.
A lot of moving pieces, and I appreciate the detailed review and answers. Any questions or comments from commission members? Shall we entertain a motion to accept this as a minor amendment?
I move to accept the revision request as a minor amendment.
For 3300377.
Oh, that's right. For 3300377.
Second.
764 Riverdale, 1533 Elm Street.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Very good.
Thank you,
I
John.
bid you all a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Some point, yeah.
Thanks, Mark. I didn't hear you clear your throat, so I didn't bother to turn my head the direction. Enforcement, Somerset Heights, illegal dumping of fill within the riverfront resource area of Piper Brook. Oops, thank you very much.
So I'm Mr. Kelly, who owns the property on Somerset. Originally, he was doing a subdivision, I think there's 3 lots. He wasn't gonna be in Riverfront, but then he piled fill in Riverfront, and it's unprotected. So I advised him that he should put silt fence up, and I said that, you know, in order to be working in that area, he needs a permit. The enforcement order serves as the permit, so I will write it up. I just needed to get you aware of it, I guess, and I'll need a signature or all your signatures
Okay.
on the enforcement.
Delightful. Any other business items to address besides signatures?
Will he be needing to come in?
You can ask him to do that. I can ask anything in the enforcement. I haven't written it yet.
I mean, what,
What would you like?
was
I
he
was gonna
doing?
ask for a plan of what he plans to do with it. and-
Yes,
The answer to
Yeah.
the question why is helpful.
why
right?
and what's the plan going forward, and can he or his representative come in and explain this all to us?
Okay.
In
And
person.
Attend commission meeting with the plan. Okay.
I have concerns about the property too, because I was looking at it today and there's a lot of junk, like,
We could have him pick
Pails
up the
and-
debris too.
yeah, all kinds of stuff thrown over the side, and there's a lot of erosion in the steep bank, and there's trees that are just clinging on their roots, hanging over the side, and the place looks awful.
Yeah, we should try to get a handle on getting it out of there sooner than later, because they'll kill the trees, and then they'll have slide
Bigger
slope
problems.
failures, and that could be a bad thing for him. I said to him, you know, you're better off getting the silt fence in faster than later, because if you don't, and it ends up in the wetland, you'll have a bigger problem and a bigger plan for restoration and all that. So hopefully nothing's getting down to the bottom yet.
Well, it looks like there might be some silt down at the bottom.
I'll check it out.
Okay.
Delightful. With that, I don't think we have any more business, right, Mark?
You're good. You can adjourn whenever you would like.
Motion to close, rather to end the meeting.
So moved.
Do we need a second?
I second.
Thank you very much. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.